Rain hammered the cracked pavement, each drop a tiny explosion in the dim alley. Ethan, 17 and shivering, clutched his jacket tighter, his breath fogging in the cold. Then he heard Ida faint, desperate cry piercing the storm's roar. He froze, heart pounding, scanning the shadows of the alley behind the diner where he worked. The sound came again, weaker, tugging at something deep inside him. He followed it, his sneakers splashing through puddles, until he saw a cardboard box tucked against a dumpster, soggy and sagging. Inside, swaddled in a faded blanket, was a baby. Her tiny fists waved, her cries barely audible over the rain. Ethan's knees buckled. He'd seen plenty in this small Ohio town judgmental stares. Whispered slurs about his sexuality, but nothing like this. A baby. Abandoned. Alone. His hands trembled as he reached for her. Instinct overriding panic. She was so small, so fragile, her eyes wide and trusting as they met his. Ethan. A familiar voice cut through the rain. Lucas, his best friend, his secret crush, stood at the alley's mouth, blonde hair plastered to his forehead. At 17, Lucas was everything Ethan was confident. Charming. The golden boy of their high school. But right now, his blue eyes were wide with shock. What the hell is that? A baby, Ethan whispered, cradling her closer. Someone left her here. Lucas stepped forward, his usual swagger gone. He peered into the box, then at Ethan, who was shaking not just from the cold. We can't just leave her, Lucas said, voice low. Certain. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. They were just kids themselves. Two gay teens in a town that barely tolerated them. But in that moment, they were all this baby had. They ducked into the diner's back entrance. The warmth of the kitchen a stark contrast to the alley's chill. The baby whimpered, and Ethan rocked her gently, his mind racing. Who would do this? Why? He glanced at Lucas, who was already pulling out his phone, fingers hesitating over the screen. We should call someone, Lucas said, but his voice wavered. Cops. Maybe. Ethan's stomach twisted. The police in this town weren't exactly kind to kids like them two boys who'd been caught holding hands once and paid for it with bruises and rumors. Not yet, he said. We need to make sure she's okay first. Lucas frowned but didn't argue. He grabbed a clean dish towel, wrapping it around the baby for extra warmth. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just them, Ethan, Lucas, and this tiny life they'd stumbled into. Ethan's heart ached, not just for the baby, but for the way Lucas looked at him, like he was someone worth trusting. They took her to Ethan's apartment, a cramped one-bedroom above a laundromat where he lived alone since his mom kicked him out last year for being gay. The place was a mess, empty ramen packets, a sagging couch, but it was safe. Ethan laid the baby on a pile of blankets, her tiny chest rising and falling. Lucas sat beside him, their shoulders brushing, and Ethan felt a spark of something dangerous, hope. We need a plan, Lucas said, his voice steady now. She needs milk, diapers, a doctor, and we need to figure out who she is. Ethan nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He'd always felt like an outsider, like he didn't belong, not in this town, not in his family. But holding this baby, he felt needed, like he could be more than the kid everyone whispered about. Lucas's hand grazed his, and Ethan's breath caught. They were in over their heads, but they were in it together. By morning, the rain had stopped, but the questions hadn't. Ethan fed the baby with formula they'd scrounged from a 24-hour pharmacy, Lucas's charm convincing the cashier to throw in a bottle for free. They named her Lily, a name that felt soft and hopeful, like the dawn breaking outside. But as they watched her sleep, A news alert flashed on Lucas's phone, a billionaire's newborn daughter, missing from a hospital in Cleveland, just an hour away. The description matched Lily perfectly. Ethan's heart sank. This wasn't just a baby. She was someone's heiress. Someone important. And they were nobody, just two teens with nothing but each other. What do we do? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lucas's jaw tightened. We keep her safe. And we find out the truth. But the truth was already closing in. Across town, a private investigator hired by the billionaire's family was piecing together clues. And his gaze was turning toward the boys. Ethan and Lucas didn't know it yet, but their lives were about to collide with a world of wealth, secrets, and dang-near a world that could tear them apart or bind them closer than ever. As Lily cooed softly, Ethan felt a fierce protectiveness surge through him. He glanced at Lucas, whose eyes burned with the same determination. They were just kids, but they'd found something worth fighting for. And in that moment, Ethan knew this baby, this fragile life, was about to change everything. The morning light filtered through Ethan's threadbare curtains, casting a soft glow on Lily's tiny face. She slept soundly on the couch, nestled in a nest of blankets, her breath steady. Ethan hadn't slept, his mind a tangle of fear and responsibility. Lucas, sprawled in a chair nearby, rubbed his eyes, his usual confidence dimmed by exhaustion. They'd spent the night taking turns feeding Lily, changing her with makeshift diapers from cut-up towels, and whispering about what came next. We can't keep her here forever, Lucas said, his voice low to avoid waking her. This place, it's not exactly a nursery. He gestured at the peeling wallpaper, the cluttered counter with its stack of unpaid bills. Ethan flinched, the truth stinging. He'd fought hard to make this apartment his own, but it wasn't a home, not yet. I know, Ethan said, his gaze fixed on Lily. But turning her over to the cops feels wrong. What if her parents don't want her? What if they're the ones who left her there? Lucas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. That news alert said she's a billionaire's kid. Ethan, people like that don't just lose their babies. Something's off. His blue eyes searched Ethan's. And for a moment, Ethan felt exposed. Like Lucas could see every doubt, every fear he carried. They decided to dig deeper. Lucas pulled up the news article on his phone, reading aloud. The baby, named Amelia Rose by her parents, was the daughter of Victor and Elena Caldwell, a power couple who owned half of Cleveland's real estate. She'd vanished from the hospital nursery 2 days ago. No ransom note. No leads. The article mentioned a $500 reward for her safe return. But Ethan's gut churned. Why would someone abandon a billionaire's kid in an alley? We need to know more, Ethan said, his voice firmer than he felt. Maybe there's a reason she was left. Maybe she's not safe with them. Lucas nodded, but his expression was grim. We're playing with fire. Man, if we get caught with her, we won't. Ethan cut in, surprising himself with his own conviction. He looked at Lily, her tiny hand curled around his finger, and felt a surge of protectiveness. He'd been abandoned by his own family, left to fend for himself. He wouldn't let that happen to her. They agreed to keep Lily hidden while they searched for answers. Lucas suggested going to the library neutral ground, free Wi-Fi, and a place where two teens wouldn't draw much attention. They bundled Lily into a backpack lined with blankets, her small form snug against Ethan's chest. The weight of her, warm and alive, grounded him as they stepped into the crisp morning air. The library was quiet, its rows of books a stark contrast to the chaos of their situation. Lucas sat up at a computer, his fingers flying over the keys as he searched for more on the Caldwells. Ethan sat nearby, rocking Lily gently, his eyes scanning the room for anyone watching. The librarian, an older woman with kind eyes, smiled at them, assuming they were just kids with a baby sister. Ethan didn't correct her. "Got something," Lucas whispered, tilting the screen toward Ethan. A blog post from a local journalist hinted at trouble in the Caldwell family, rumors of Elena's mental health struggles, Victor's ruthless business tactics, even whispers of infidelity. Nothing concrete, but enough to make Ethan's skin prickle. What if they didn't want her? He murmured. What if she was inconvenient? Lucas's jaw tightened. Then we're her only shot. He glanced at Lily, his expression softening. She's lucky she found us. Ethan's heart skipped. Us. The word felt heavy. Intimate. He'd loved Lucas for years. Silently. Afraid to ruin their friendship. But now, with Lily binding them, it felt like something was shifting. Lucas's hand brushed his as he reached for the mouse. And Ethan didn't pull away. Their research was cut short by a sharp knock at the library's entrance. A man in a dark coat stood there, his gaze sweeping the room. Ethan's stomach dropped. The man's posture, the way he scanned the crowd, it screamed private investigator. Lucas noticed too, his body tensing. "Time to go?" he whispered. They slipped out the back, Lily still asleep against Ethan's chest. The man didn't follow, but the encounter left them rattled. Back at the apartment, they laid out their options. Turning Lily over to the authorities was risky. They could be accused of kidnapping. Keeping her meant lying low. But for how long? And what about the Caldwells? Were they grieving parents or something darker? As night fell, Ethan sat on the couch, Lily in his arms, Lucas beside him. The silence was heavy, charged with unspoken fears. "We're doing the right thing, right?" Ethan asked, his voice barely audible. Lucas's hand found his, squeezing gently. "Yeah, we are." His touch lingered, and Ethan's heart raced. For the first time, he let himself hope, not just for Lily, but for them. But outside, the investigator was closing in, his car parked across the street, watching their window. And in Cleveland, the Caldwells were making moves, their secrets unraveling. Ethan and Lucas were in deeper than they knew, and the truth about Lily was more dangerous than they could imagine. The next day, Ethan woke to the soft gurgle of Lily's laughter, a sound that felt like sunlight in the dim apartment. She lay on a blanket, kicking her tiny legs, while Lucas tickled her belly, his grin wide and unguarded. For a moment, Ethan let himself imagine this as their Lithia quiet morning, a family of sorts. But the weight of reality crashed in fast. "We need to move," Ethan said, glancing at the window. The investigator's car was gone, but the unease lingered. "If that guy from the library is onto us, we're not safe here." Lucas nodded, his playfulness fading. "Where, though? We can't exactly check into a hotel with a baby and no money." Ethan's mind raced. His job at the diner barely covered rent, and Lucas's part-time gig at the auto shop wasn't much better. They had maybe $50 between them, enough for a few days of formula and diapers. But Lily deserved more than this, more than a life on the run with two kids who barely knew what they were doing. "I know a place," Lucas said after a pause. "My cousin's cabin, out by the lake. It's empty this time of year. We could lie low there, figure things out." Ethan hesitated. The idea of leaving town, even for a remote cabin, felt like crossing a line. But staying felt riskier. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's do it." They packed light diapers, formula, a few clothes, and a burner phone Lucas bought with cash. Ethan carried Lily in a sling made from an old hoodie, her warmth steadying his nerves. They took a bus to the edge of town, then hitched a ride with a trucker who didn't ask questions. By dusk, they reached the cabin, a small wooden structure nestled among pines, the lake shimmering in the distance. The cabin was musty, with creaky floors and a single bedroom, but it felt like a fortress compared to Ethan's apartment. They set up a makeshift crib for Lily using a dresser drawer padded with blankets. As night fell, they sat by a crackling fire, the glow casting shadows on Lucas's face. Ethan wanted to say something about the fear gnawing at him, about the way Lucas's presence made it bearable, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, Lucas spoke. You ever think about what you'd do if you could start over? Like, somewhere new, where nobody knows you. Ethan looked at him, surprised. All the time. Somewhere I wouldn't have to hide who I am. He paused, heart pounding. Somewhere we wouldn't have to. Lucas's eyes softened, and for a moment, Ethan thought he might say something more. But then Lily fussed, and the moment broke. They took turns soothing her, their movements synchronized, like they'd been doing this forever. The next morning, Lucas rigged the cabin's old radio to pick up news from Cleveland. A broadcast confirmed their worst fears. The search for Amelia Rose was intensifying, with the Caldwells offering $1 million reward. But there was something else: a mention of a nurse who disappeared from the hospital the same night as the baby. Ethan's pulse quickened. What if the nurse took her? He said. What if she was trying to protect her? Lucas frowned. Then why leave her in an alley? Doesn't add up. They decided to dig deeper, using the cabin's spotty Wi-Fi to search for the nurse. Her name was Maria Delgado, 32, a single mom with no criminal record. Social media posts painted her as kind, dedicated. But her last update was a cryptic message about doing what's right. Ethan felt a chill. What if Maria knew something about the Caldwell? Something dangerous? Their search was interrupted by a crunch of gravel outside. Ethan's heart stopped. Through the window, he saw a black SUV parked at the edge of the clearing. The same investigator from the library stepped out, his eyes scanning the cabin. Lucas grabbed Lily, pulling Ethan toward the back door. Go, he whispered. Now. They slipped into the woods. Lily pressed against Ethan's chest, her soft breaths a stark contrast to his racing heart. They hid behind a cluster of pines, watching as the investigator circled the cabin, his flashlight cutting through the dusk. He didn't enter, but his presence was a warning. They were being hunted. When he finally drove off, Ethan and Lucas returned, shaken. We can't stay here long, Lucas said, his voice tight. He's too close. Ethan nodded, but his mind was on Lily. She wasn't just a baby anymore, she was a key to a puzzle they didn't understand. And as he looked at Lucas, his steady presence in the chaos, Ethan felt a resolve harden within him. They'd protect her, no matter the cost. But the cost was growing, and the truth about Lily's origins was still out of reach, buried in a web of secrets they were only beginning to unravel. The cabin's walls seemed to close in as Ethan and Lucas sat in the dark, the fire reduced to embers. Lily slept soundly, unaware of the dangers circling them. Ethan's hands shook as he fed her, the memory of the investigator's flashlight searing his mind. He knows we're here, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. How? Lucas paced, his silhouette sharp against the dim glow. Maybe he tracked us from the library, or someone saw us on the bus. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. We need to move again, but we're running out of places to go. Ethan's chest tightened. He'd always been the cautious one, the one who hid his feelings, his truth, to survive. But now, with Lily's life in their hands, hiding wasn't enough. We need to know why she was taken, he said. If we find Maria, the nurse, maybe we'll understand what's going on. Lucas nodded, his expression grim. Okay, but we can't just Google her from here. That guy's probably monitoring everything. We need to be smart. They decided to head to a nearby town. A place small enough to avoid attention, but big enough for a public library with computers. The next morning, they packed what little they had and left the cabin at dawn. Lily snug in her sling. The bus ride was tense. Every stranger's glance feeling like a threat. Ethan kept his head down, his arm around Lily, while Lucas scanned the crowd. His jaw set. The library in Millfield was a squat brick building. Its computers ancient but functional. Lucas took the lead, searching for any trace of Maria Delgado. Ethan sat nearby, rocking Lily, his eyes darting to the entrance every few seconds. After an hour, Lucas leaned back, frustration etched on his face. Nothing solid, he said. Just more rumors about the Caldwells. Some Reddit thread says Victor's got ties to shady business deals. Maybe even organized crime. Ethan's stomach churned. You think that's why someone took Lily? To get to him? Maybe, Lucas said. Or maybe Elena's the key. That blog mentioned her mental health. What if she gave her up? The thought hung heavy between them. Ethan looked at Lily. Her tiny fingers curled around his thumb, and felt a pang of protectiveness. He couldn't imagine abandoning her, no matter the reason. But billionaires didn't live like normal people. Their secrets were bigger, their motives darker. Their search hit a breakthrough when Lucas found a local news article buried in an archive. Maria Delgado had been fired from the hospital a week before Lily's disappearance, accused of stealing medical supplies. The article hinted at a cover-up, with no evidence ever presented. She was set up, Lucas said, his voice low. Bet you anything the Caldwells were involved. Ethan's mind raced. If Maria was framed, maybe she took Lily to expose the Caldwells or to protect her. But why leave her in an alley? The pieces didn't fit, and the more they learned, the more dangerous their situation felt. They left the library, but as they stepped outside, Ethan froze. The black SUV was parked across the street, the investigator leaning against it. His eyes locked on them. Lucas grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him into an alley. Keep moving, he hissed. They ducked through back streets, Lily's soft whimpers the only sound between them. They found a cheap motel, paying cash to avoid a paper trail. The room was dingy, with stained carpets and a flickering TV, but it was a roof over their heads. As Lily slept, Ethan and Lucas sat on the bed, their shoulders brushing. The silence was heavy, charged with fear and something deeper. I'm scared, Ethan admitted, his voice breaking. What if we can't keep her safe? Lucas turned to him, his eyes fierce. We will. Together. He reached for Ethan's hand, his touch warm and steady. Ethan's heart pounded, the weight of his feelings for Lucas crashing through his fear. He wanted to lean in, to close the distance. But the moment was cut short by a knock at the door. They froze. Lucas peered through the peephole, his body rigid. It's him, he whispered. The investigator. They grabbed Lily and slipped out the bathroom window, landing in a muddy alley. The night was cold, the stars hidden by clouds. And as they ran, Ethan realized they were running out of time. The truth about Lily was out there, but so was the danger, and it was closer than ever. The alley behind the motel was a maze of shadows, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and garbage. Ethan clutched Lily to his chest, her warmth a fragile anchor as they moved silently, Lucas leading the way. Every creak of a fence, every rustle of leaves, sent Ethan's heart into overdrive. The investigator was close. They'd seen his silhouette through the motel window, his voice low as he spoke into a phone. We need to split up, Lucas whispered. his breath visible in the cold. He can't follow both of us. Ethan's stomach dropped. No way. We stay together. Lucas's eyes softened, but his voice was firm. If he catches us both, Lily's done for. Take her. Head to the bus station. I'll lead him off. Meet you there in an hour. Ethan wanted to argue, but the urgency in Lucas's gaze stopped him. He nodded, his throat tight. Lucas squeezed his shoulder, a fleeting touch that felt like a promise, then darted down a side street, making just enough noise to draw attention. Ethan waited, heart pounding, until he heard the investigator's footsteps fade. Then he ran. Lily pressed close, her soft breath steadying him. The bus station was a fluorescent-lit chaos of tired travelers and flickering screens. Ethan found a corner bench, keeping his hood up, Lily hidden in his jacket. He scanned the crowd, every stranger a potential threat. Minutes dragged like hours, his mind replaying Lucas's touch, his words. What if he didn't make it? What if the investigator caught him? Finally, Lucas appeared, his face flushed but unharmed. Lost him, he said, dropping onto the bench. But he's good. Too good. He glanced at Lily, his expression softening. We need a new plan. They bought tickets to Columbus, a bigger city where they could blend in. The bus ride was tense, Ethan's eyes glued to the windows, expecting the black SUV at every turn. Lucas sat close, their thighs touching, a silent reassurance. Ethan wanted to say something about the fear, the feelings he couldn't name, but Lily's needs came first. She was fussy, her formula running low, and they were down to their last $20. In Columbus, they found a shelter that didn't ask questions. The place was crowded, filled with people who'd lost as much as they had, but it had a small nursery with diapers and formula. Ethan fed Lily while Lucas scoured the shelter's computer for more on Maria Delgado. He found a lead, a social media post from Maria's sister, mentioning a safe house for women in crisis, run by a local nonprofit. It was a long shot, but if Maria was hiding, it might be there. They left at dawn, taking a city bus to the safe house's neighborhood. The building was nondescript, a faded Victorian with a sign that read, Hope Haven. Ethan's heart raced as they approached, Lily asleep in her sling. A woman answered the door, her eyes kind but wary. Can I help you? She asked. We're looking for Maria Delgado, Lucas said, his voice steady. It's about a baby. The woman's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition. Wait here. She disappeared inside, returning with a tired-looking woman in her 30s. Maria. Her eyes widened when she saw Lily, tears brimming. You found her, she whispered. Maria led them to a small room, explaining in hushed tones. She'd worked at the hospital, seen the Caldwells up close. Victor's dangerous, she said. He's got enemies, people who'd hurt Amelia, to get to him. I took her to keep her safe, but I got scared. Left her where someone would find her. Her voice broke. I didn't know what else to do. Ethan's anger flared. You left her in an alley. But as Maria sobbed, he saw her fear, her regret. She wasn't a villain, she was desperate. Like them. Lucas leaned forward. Who's after her? What do they want? Maria shook her head. I don't know names. Just whispers, men who came to the hospital. Watching. Victor knew. But he didn't care. Elena, she's not well. She couldn't protect her. The weight of it hit Ethan hard. Lily wasn't just a missing heiress, she was a pawn in a game they didn't understand. And now, they were part of it. As Maria promised to help them keep Lily safe. Ethan glanced at Lucas, their shared resolve stronger than ever. But the investigator was still out there, and the truth was closing in. threatening to shatter the fragile bond they'd built. The safe house hummed with quiet tension, the kind that comes from too many secrets in one room. Ethan sat on a worn couch, Lily cradled in his arms, her soft weight grounding him. Maria's story had shaken him. Victor Caldwell's enemies, shadowy figures who'd use a baby as leverage. Lucas paced nearby, his energy restless, his eyes darting to the windows. "We can't stay here long," he said. "If Maria's on their radar, this place isn't safe." Maria nodded, her face pale. "I've been hiding here for days. They're looking for me, too." She glanced at Lily, guilt etched in her features. "I thought I was saving her, but I just made things worse." Ethan's chest ached. He wanted to hate Maria for abandoning Lily, but he saw the fear in her eyes. The same fear he felt every time he thought about losing Lily or Lucas. "We need to know who's after her," he said. "If we're going to protect her, we need names. Proof." Maria hesitated, then pulled a USB drive from her pocket. "I took this from the hospital. It's got records Victor's visits, meetings with men who weren't doctors. I don't know what it means, but it's something." Lucas took the drive, his fingers brushing Ethan's as he passed it over. "We'll check it out. But we need a plan to get out of Columbus, somewhere they won't look." Ethan's mind raced. They were just kids, out of their depth, but Lily's life depended on them. He thought of his mom, the way she'd turned him away, and felt a surge of determination. He wouldn't let Lily feel that kind of rejection. "We could go to my aunt in Chicago," he said. "She's okay with me. She'd help." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "You sure? You haven't talked to her in years." "She's all we've got," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the doubt gnawing at him. His Aunt Claire had sent him a card after he'd been kicked out, but they hadn't spoken since. Still, she was family, maybe the only kind he had left. They left the safe house at midnight, Maria staying behind to avoid drawing attention. The USB drive burned a hole in Ethan's pocket as they boarded a late-night bus to Chicago. Lily slept through the journey, her tiny breaths a reminder of why they were running. Lucas sat close, his knee pressed against Ethan's, a silent promise in the dark. Chicago's skyline loomed by morning, its towers a stark contrast to their small-town world. Aunt Claire lived in a modest apartment in Rogers Park, far from the city's glitz. She opened the door, her eyes widening at the sight of Ethan. "Lucas, and the baby." "Ethan," she said, her voice soft but surprised. "What's going on?" They told her everything: Lily, the alley, the investigator, Maria's story. Claire listened, her face a mix of shock and concern. But she didn't hesitate. "You can stay here," she said, "but we need to be careful." Her apartment was small but warm, filled with books and photos of a life Ethan had never been part of. They set up a corner for Lily, using a borrowed bassinet from Claire's neighbor. Lucas plugged the USB drive into Claire's ancient laptop, and they pored over the files. Most were medical records, but buried in the data were emails Victor Caldwell arranging meetings with names they didn't recognize, mentioning leverage and debts. One name stood out: Dominic Russo, a known figure in Cleveland's underworld. Ethan's blood ran cold. "This is bigger than we thought," he whispered. "If Russo's involved, Lily's not just a missing kid. She's a target." Lucas's hand found his, squeezing tight. "We'll keep her safe, no matter what." Claire watched them, her expression unreadable. "You two, you're good kids. But this is dangerous. You need to think about turning her over to the authorities." Ethan shook his head. "Not until we know who we can trust." He looked at Lucas, their eyes locking, and felt a spark of something stronger than fear. Love. Maybe. Or something close to it. But their time was running out. The investigator had tracked them to Chicago. His SUV spotted near Claire's building. And in Cleveland, Victor Caldwell was making calls. His voice cold and calculated. Ethan and Lucas were in deeper than ever. And the truth about Lily was a ticking bomb, ready to explode. The Chicago wind howled outside Claire's apartment, rattling the windows as Ethan and Lucas sat hunched over the laptop. Lily asleep in her bassinet. The USB drive's files painted a chilling picture. Victor Caldwell wasn't just a businessman who was entangled with Dominic Russo. A man linked to extortion, smuggling, and worse. One email mentioned a problem with Amelia Rose, hinting that her birth had disrupted some deal. Ethan's stomach churned. Was Lily a bargaining chip? A liability? We can't keep running forever, Lucas said, his voice low. Russo's people are probably looking for us now, not just the investigator. Ethan nodded, his eyes on Lily. She was innocent, caught in a world of greed and power. He thought of his own life cast out, judged, but still fighting. He wouldn't let her face that alone. We need to expose them, he said. Victor, Russo, whoever's involved. If we can get this to the right people, maybe Lily will be safe. Claire, listening from the kitchen, frowned. That's a big risk. You're talking about taking on people with real power. I know, Ethan said, his voice steadier than he felt. But we're all she's got. Lucas pulled up a contact for a local journalist, Sarah Nguyen, known for exposing corruption. Her website promised anonymity for sources, and Ethan felt a flicker of hope. They drafted an email, attaching key files from the USB drive, careful to leave out their names. But as Lucas hit send, a sharp knock at the door froze them. Claire peered through the peephole, her face paling. It's him, the investigator. Ethan's heart raced. They grabbed Lily and slipped into the bedroom, hiding in the closet as Claire stalled at the door. The investigator's voice was smooth, insistent, claiming he was with child services. Claire played along, but Ethan could hear the edge in her tone. She didn't trust him either. When he finally left, they emerged, shaken. We need to move again, Lucas said. He's not giving up. Claire shook her head. You can't keep running. Let me help. I know a lawyer, someone who works with kids in crisis. She can get you protection, maybe even get Lily into safe custody. Ethan hesitated. The idea of giving Lily up hurt, but he knew Claire was right. They weren't equipped to keep her safe forever, not against men like Russo. Lucas met his eyes, a silent agreement passing between them. Okay, Ethan said, but we stay with her until we know she's safe. They met the lawyer, Rachel Kim, in a crowded coffee shop the next day. She was sharp, no nonsense, and took their story seriously. If these files are real, you've got something explosive, she said, scanning the USB drive. But you're in danger. I can get you into a safe program. Witness protection if needed. Ethan's throat tightened. Witness protection meant disappearing, leaving everything behind. He glanced at Lucas, his heart aching at the thought of losing him. But Lily's safety came first. They agreed to let Rachel take the lead, contacting federal authorities to verify the files. That night, back at Claire's, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat by Lily's bassinet, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. Lucas joined him, their shoulders touching. You okay? Lucas asked, his voice soft. No, Ethan admitted. I'm scared we'll lose her. And I'm scared of what happens to us. Lucas turned to him, his eyes intense. We'll figure it out. Together. He leaned in, and before Ethan could think, their lips met a soft, desperate kiss that said everything they'd been too afraid to voice. It was brief, but it changed everything. The moment was shattered by a crash downstairs. Footsteps pounded up the stairs, and Ethan's blood ran cold. Russo's men had found them. They grabbed Lily and ran. But the apartment was surrounded. The only way out was through, and the truth about Lily was their only weapon. The apartment door splintered as Ethan and Lucas bolted for the fire escape. Lily clutched tight in Ethan's arms. Shouts echoed behind them. Heavy footsteps closing in. Lucas led the way, his hand gripping Ethan's wrist, pulling him through the narrow metal stairs into the cold Chicago night. The city's lights blurred as they ran. Lily's cries muffled against Ethan's chest. "Keep moving," Lucas hissed, guiding them into an alley. They ducked behind a dumpster, hearts pounding, as two men in dark jackets passed, their voices low and menacing. Ethan recognized one from a photo on the USB Drivia, known associate of Dominic Russo. These weren't just investigators. They were enforcers. "We can't outrun them," Ethan whispered, his voice shaking. "We need to get to Rachel." Lucas nodded, his face pale but determined. "There's a police station 3 blocks away. If we can make it, Rachel's contacts can protect us." They moved quickly, sticking to shadows. Lily's weight a constant reminder of what was at stake. The police station loomed ahead, its fluorescent glow a beacon. But as they crossed the street, a black SUV screeched to a stop, blocking their path. The investigator stepped out, his expression cold. "Hand over the baby," he said. "You're in over your heads." Ethan's grip on Lily tightened. "You're not taking her." Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "You're working for Russo, aren't you? We know everything his deals with Caldwell. The threats. It's over." The investigator's eyes narrowed. But before he could respond, sirens wailed. Rachel had come through. Federal agents swarmed the street, guns drawn. The investigator raised his hands, his composure cracking as he was cuffed. Ethan and Lucas stood frozen, Lily safe between them, as the agents secured the scene. In the chaos, Rachel found them, her face grim but relieved. "You're safe now," she said. "The files you sent were enough to start an investigation. Victor Caldwell's been detained, and Russo's men are being rounded up." Ethan's knees buckled, relief flooding him. "What about Lily?" he asked, his voice breaking. Rachel's expression softened. "She'll be placed with a foster family until the courts sort out her custody. Elena's in treatment, and Victor's facing charges. You did the right thing." The words should have felt like victory, but Ethan's heart ached. He looked at Lily, her tiny hand curled around his finger, and felt a loss he couldn't name. Lucas's hand found his, squeezing tight, and Ethan knew he wasn't alone in his grief. They spent the night at a safe house, Lily still with them for now. As she slept, Ethan and Lucas sat on the floor, their backs against the wall. "I don't want to lose her," Ethan admitted, tears in his eyes. "Or you." Lucas turned to him, his gaze fierce and tender. "You won't lose me. Ever." He leaned in, their foreheads touching, and Ethan felt the weight of their journey, the fear, the love, the hope settle into something unbreakable. Days later, they handed Lily over to a kind foster couple, their hearts heavy but sure she'd be safe. The investigation into the Caldwells and Russo unfolded, exposing a web of corruption that made national headlines. Ethan and Lucas were offered witness protection, but they chose to stay, building a life together in Chicago with Claire's support. Months passed, and they visited Lily when they could, watching her grow, her laughter a reminder of why they'd fought. They never learned the full truth of her abandonment. but they knew they'd given her a chance at a better life. And in the process, they'd found each other a love forged in crisis, strong enough to face anything. As they stood together one evening, watching the city lights, Ethan felt a peace he'd never known. They were young, scarred, but whole. Lily had been their beginning, but their story together was just starting.